Hello, everyone, and welcome to Snap Take. This is Glazer of Snap Judgments, the official podcast of Marvel Snap Zone. We've got two new Lamby decks for you today, and the best Quake. One of our friends, King Koala, is the Quake master. We're going to do that. We're going to look at the patch notes. We got a whole lot of great stuff for you today. But before we go forward, I'm going to invite you to hit that sub button. If you'd like to help us beat the machines, help us beat that algorithm and grow for free to you. All you have to do is hit that sub button, like, comment, help us out against that algorithm. We're trying to get to 8,000 subs. We're almost there. You can help us reach that hurdle. We bring you 3 new decks every single weekday. Also, Sunday videos. Also, Saturday, a giant podcast with some of Marvel Snap's biggest names, including the aforementioned Lamby, including Nina is Noob, including Glenn Jones. Check us out. Hit that sub. You won't regret it. Again, support us. Free to you. Super helpful for us. We also maintain the giveaway sheet of a Marvel Snap. It's every active giveaway in the community right now. It's in the description to this video. It's completely free. It does nothing for us for you to check it out. It's just a way for you to find great content in the process, get some free stuff. We also believe in deck credits here. So our deck credits for the day. We begin with questions of the day, then we're going to do the patch news, and we're using Nina is graphic. Props to Nina. Then we've got our first Lamby deck. Props to KM Best. This one came from a KM Best video, but it seems to have gotten lost in the shuffle because people should be playing it, and I have yet to see it. Then we've got the new publisher thoughts. I've got some thoughts on this new publisher and their 100 million deal. Then we've got thoughts on the Teen Koala Quake deck. The deck is fantastic. Then we vote Wednesday, where you vote for a deck we will feature in Sunday's video. You're actually going to choose two because I have 6 decks to get through. And if I keep doing one a week, we're never going to get that going. Then we've got the second Lammy deck, and we end with the shop and shoutouts. I don't know if you can all hear the wind, but there's like a freaking giant wind and thunderstorm outside. So let's hope that the internet works throughout this whole video. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Okay. So, question of the day. I'm getting a ton of questions. I'm not going to highlight one person, but I'm getting an absolute ton of questions about why evolutionary is suddenly everywhere. I mean, there's 3 reasons. First, evolutionary was just in spotlight caches. So, if you got evolutionary, you're going to play it, right? Second, Kara is also recently in spotlight caches, and Kara has 2 real, like, amazing homes. Home 1 is Thanos, and Home 2 is evolutionary. So if you have evolutionary, you have Kara. Great. There's also Nebula, who goes in those decks. So that's like all those spotlight caches from last week. Evolutionaries can be everywhere. But Evolutionary is also the single best card to get as an early Series 3 player. As an early Series 3 player, all you really need is She-Hulk or She-Hulk and Magic for certain versions as far as Series 3 cards to make high evolutionary decks work. Since they're so cheap to get to work, since they're so cheap to get to be good, whereas other top tier decks are really, really expensive, a lot of people who are in their Series 3 journey are just going to play high evolutionary. It is still a fair deck. It's still a beatable deck. We've covered how to beat that deck in the past on the channel. A lot of it is just blow up Limbo, run something to blow up Limbo. Don't wait till turn 6, blow up Limbo on turn 5. You will do better. Cool. You will usually win that matchup. The other thing is you can often, with certain decks, put out enough power early. If you put out enough power early, a leech on a later turn won't ruin your life. Cool. That's how you beat those high. Robert Rivern asked what it would take for another game to be a serious contender to snap. Um, I mean, luck is a large part of the answer, right? Luck and a significant financial backing. Things go viral now, so it's possible a game goes viral and becomes big. Think Among Us during the start of COVID, how that became like this cultural moment. A game could become a cultural moment like Among Us, like Pokemon, but that doesn't happen really often. So what it would likely take is a large IP and a lot of money backing. Part of what drew people into Marvel Snap was the Marvel brand, which was at the start of the game an extremely strong brand. It's softened now, despite its omnipresence. It is no longer quite the strong brand it was in the lead up to like Endgame and right after, so on. But it's still a really strong brand. Something like a Star Wars game, something like a DC game, something like a Disney property like Lorcana could get there, like Marvel Snap, but it'd have to have the right gameplay. The other thing Marvel Snap does really, really well as a mobile experience is be extremely fast. The speed with which you can play a Marvel Snap game, get invested, the early game experience is really stellar. We're going to get a lot of copycats in the coming years, and I would assume 1 or 2 of them end up relatively successful. Are they going to be as big as Snap? Probably not, but they will be successful. And let me know if you'd like me to try those out and let you know how they are. We also know that Second Dinner is working on a second game, so we'll see if they cannibalize themselves or they're able to make something different enough to support two different IPs. Models wants to know what Second Dinner would have to do to get me to stop playing. I mean, I would it would mostly be moral stuff. I think I'm far enough into the game that like no monetary decision or anything like that is really going to change that I play. Um, in fairness, there's a financial incentive for me to continue playing at this point, right? I'm not doing this for free anymore. I did this for free for months, but I'm not doing this for free anymore. I do this and I get paid a reasonable amount of money for it. So I'm likely to continue. Although if I don't know, they like supported Nazism or gave a bunch of money to something I find absolutely abhorrent, I would stop. There's number of things that would make me stop regardless of the money. And I have turned on things I really love before for similar issues. Hi, JK Rowling. But I don't think Second Dinner is likely to do any of those things. So I'm likely in here for the long haul. So if you're here, get comfortable. We'll be doing these videos for a while. Have your questions read out in tomorrow's video? Leave one in the comments. Priority answers for Patreons. And I do regular Patreon threads. Really just started the Patreons like all 2 weeks old, where I just say, hey, drop questions. And I answer some there, answer some on video, so on. Some of the questions came from there. All right. The January 9th balance update. So Fist Tower now gives -4 instead of destroying something, and that is so much less punishing. It's amazing. Things like Werewolf by Knife and Knight and Silk when the Fist Tower was out were just absolutely terrible. Um, so this is a significant upgrade in terms of like how it feels to play the game. Yay. Angel now flies from hand or deck, which means it's at least potential deck thinning, which is rare. Marvel Snap has almost no deck thinning, almost nothing that you can just grab out of your deck, especially that goes board. Draw is rare. Jumping from deck to in play is rarer. It's just this and Mbaku at the end of games. So hooray, Angel's got a place now. It's not necessarily a good place, but it's a place. Um, Den, our friend Den, Marvel Snapstone's head writer, has a bounce destroy deck that we'll probably be covering in a video tomorrow. So that is a really good place for Angel because decks like that really want to see things like Moon Girl, things like Death, things like Beast. And if you can get a destroy out early and get that, it's going to then both thin your deck or hand, unfortunately, but deck is better here. And then like and you're fine if it thins hand because then you also can incidentally destroy Angel to make your death even cheaper, which is great. Quake becomes a 2/3 that is on reveal, swap the position of the other two locations, and Quake is immediately one of the 5 to 10 best cards in Marvel Snap. This is a completely overpowered ability. We're going to look at multiple Quake decks today. We have both the Lamby and a King Koala Quake deck. Quake is completely freaking bonkers. I cannot overstate how much you should be running Quake if you have Quake right now. Kingpin goes to a 2/3 when an enemy card moves here, afflicted with -2 power. A card that exists. If the move meta takes over, you can run it. Until then, just keep it in mind. Dracula now no longer replaces its power; it adds the power. So it's a 4/1 and now adds power. So it should usually have more power than it would before. However, this is a huge caveat. Things like High Evolutionary make Dracula worse. Locations like the one that gives you -1 every turn or makes it worse. So there's upside and downside here. How often these come up are mostly going to change how you play the card, right? There's a point where High Evolutionary Storm was like really, really common, and it would go Storm into Cyclops, and then that would just win the lane because Cyclops would make whatever was there so weak. One of the most powerful things you could do at that point was just drop Dracula there, and Dracula would just solo that lane. Will Dracula still solo that lane? It's much less sure, right? Okay. Loki is stays exactly the same, except now he transforms. He still works with Quinjet and everything else, but he no longer works with Collector. Um, this is month 5 of Loki doing the same basic thing, and I really wish they had redesigned the card at some point, or at least significantly hit it to the point where it like loses cost reduction. As is, this is still probably going to be one of the best cards in Marvel Snap. It's still probably around the top 10, just not number 1 anymore. Enough people seem to like Loki that they are unwilling to change it significantly, but it's begun to feel like enough is enough. I can't think of another card that's had 5 straight months of this type. Ms. Marvel is now a 4/4. She still gives 5 to adjacent locations, but they must have 2 cards of unique costs in there, distinct costs in there, not just one. That is harder to use. It makes her significantly weaker, and the real way it makes her weaker, like the big way it makes her weaker, is she's no longer a machine at grabbing priority. So grabbing priority is one of the most important things do in Marvel Snap. It's one of the way games of Snap. You can control a lot of what your opponent does, how your opponent does it, and so on by winning, gaining, and throwing priority. And now that's harder to do with Ms. If that's harder to do with Ms. Marvel, she's a worse card, right? She's again still one of the best cards in Marvel Snap, but she's more in line. I've seen this played. I've played it and played against it already, and I've seen the difference. Annihilus loses 1 power and now only sends negative cards, not zero cost cards. My working feeling for this is they just don't like uh, the debris ability, especially with Kara in the meta. So they're getting rid of the debris and a few incidental things. This brings Annihilus in line, but again, he is one of the, you guessed it, top 10 cards in Snap still. I think that Annihilus decks changed the least of all the decks of the three major cards. Like I think Ms. Marvel decks have to adjust. I think Lockdown and Galactus are basically gone for her. I think Loki has to adjust. I think it's more of a good stuff deck instead of a specific like Loki deck now. I think Annihilus decks are still basically the same. They run Hood, they run Sentries, sometimes they run Selene, and they call it a day. Good for Annihilus. I think Annihilus has gotten better relative to the meta than he was before, and he was already one of them. All right, our first deck is Lamby's Black Knight. Lamby took the Zun's Black Knight that we talked about. We were the first to talk about it, just for the record. You can check the record. The day that deck hit top 5, before it was even the #1 deck, and when it was the #1 deck, everyone featured it. We talked about it when it was top 5, so we got it first. Hooray! We also covered Zun's previous success on the channel, so this is the Zun's deck, except it's got Lamby spin. Lamby basically cut Sarah and then cut something else and added Legion and Juggernaut. And when we talk about deck credits and who created decks, this is clearly Zun's deck, right? But it plays ridiculously different thanks to Juggernaut. Like, it no longer feels similar. Although, this version has a way, way better high evolutionary matchup because of Legion than the previous version. Juggernaut also is just an stellar. That's severely underplayed and helps win games with this because it gives you a second four to play when you don't otherwise have one. Cool. Ms. Marvel has gotten worse in this deck. She is no longer completely freaking busted, though she's still pretty. So this needs a Black Knight. Ms. Marvel can be Super Skrull without losing, honestly, all that much anymore. Because, like, there's a ridiculous, completely absurd amount of Zabu, and Zabu is, like, the key card for this deck. It's, like, your snap condition, and that means, if you have Super Skrull, you just get their Zabu, incidentally, and then you get all their other good stuff. Legion can be Quake, Sarah, or Arrow. Gladiator can be Medusa or Polaris. And a suggestion from our friend Gunny T is consider Kyra. Cool. I think Legion is great here. I'd really like Quake, and I spent a while going Quake or Juggernaut, Quake or Juggernaut, Quake or Juggernaut, and I don't have it. But they're both excellent. All right. So this feels insanely busted. This is honestly my pick for the #1 deck in Marvel Snap right now. I think this version is the best deck in the game. Cool. I don't know how to make that clear. This version is the best deck in the game until proven. So turn 1, Black Knight. Turn 2, Zabu. Turn 3, Zabu is generally better than Sif, is generally better than Gladiator. Remember, Zabu is their key card and snap condition. You're obviously not Siffing unless you have one of the 6s in hand. Turn 4, Ms. Marvel or Shard. Turn 5, Legion, discard or set up. You can Legion, you can play something like Sif or Blade, or you can just get set up for the last turn by playing a couple of. Turn 6, 2 of Ms. Marvel, Shang-Chi, Ghost Rider, Shard, and pick whichever 2 you want to win the game. This is incredibly powerful. This runs enough tech because of Shang-Chi and Juggernaut that it just is crazy strong. Sometimes Juggernaut just wins a lane for cheap, and then you've got like a 20 power Shard with the 5 from Ms. Marvel and a 5 from Lady Sif in that other lane. You're just sitting there like, okay, I'll push all your crap over there and just win. And then you just win. This deck is, again, utterly silly. Quick variant talk. I've got the Spotlight Black Knight. We've got, as far as hips go, we've got Hip Blade, Hip Zabu, Hip Gladiator, Hip Sif, Hip Legion, Hip Magneto, Hip Infinite, Hip Ms. Marvel. So it's an 8-hip deck. Wonderful. We've got the Jacinto for the Ghost Rider and Shang-Chi, so they're a pair. And then Baby Juggernaut, because it fits the vibe, and Baby Juggernaut is the cutest. Oh, and Spotlight Black Knight we said already. That's why it's in the thumb. Pretty. Oh, one last thing. I recently got this Infinite Gold, and I'm very, very happy. All right. So Second Dinner has a Series B announcement. Series D are apparently a company that's basically made up of venture capitalists. They invested 100 million into Marvel Snap. They're basically going to be the new publisher, is how I'm reading. How everyone's been reading. We know that the new verse store is closing down. This seems to be what's replacing that. It gives them way more money to do a bunch of stuff, including starting apparently another game. So this is ultimately like at the end of the day, there's no way to read this as but a positive. The game is, with this type of investment, going to live for a very long time. Cool. This is going to be ultimately, again, good for Marvel Snap and its players to have this kind of money invested in the game. Will end up benefiting everyone. Okay, the downside. First, they say they're not going to be involved and they're going to give Second Dinner creative freedom. That's the kind of thing everyone says at the beginning. Second Dinner is notable for their company like morale and high spirits. Like it's famously a great place to work. Um, Venture capitalists aren't exactly always known for keeping their nose out of the business they invest in, and they're not known for not making demands even when they say they won't. So that's worrisome at the very least. But hey, it's a good start, and there's no reason to assume that's going to happen. It's just something to keep an eye on. The other thing is there was a patch today that we just talked about, right? Oh, by the way, if you're worried about the data mines, we're going to talk about the data mines in tomorrow's video. So just stay tuned. We're going to talk about all the new cards for February and March in tomorrow's video. But okay, so Second Dinner released a patch, and there's like 5 bugs, right? They accidentally buffed 2 cards that they then had to go nerf. They accidentally messed up the like Series 3 free acquisition from the series drops, and like just other bugs happened, right? Like in this patch. So they're a small company still, and like I don't mind that these bugs. I'm not like the type of person who's like, how dare they? Grr. But but if they're like losing some of their team to this second game, that kind of thing seems like it's going to be more common and more, which doesn't necessarily increase the player experience. When you say consider that venture capitalists likely want to make their money back relatively quickly, um, there's concern here, right? This isn't like all good. This is good, but it's not all good. There's reason. Am I going to play Second Dinner's second game? You betcha. Like almost certainly, right? Am I going to do it on this channel? Well, y'all tell me if you want that, and if so, I will. If not, I'll make a, I don't know, Star Wars Judgment Saga, whatever the hell game they decide to make. Cool. So that's my take. Let me know what you think about that. I'm curious. Okay. So King Koala is the ultimate Quake lover. Keen is our friend. He hits infinite every season with Quake. Literally, it's been like 8 or 9 seasons in a row. It's always a Quake deck. It's always got Storm in it. It used to have like Ms. Marvel in it, but it's evolved over time. And so Keen is the first person. Excuse me, the first person I turned to when Quake was buffed. I said, Keen, what's the best Quake deck? And Keen sent me 3, and he said, okay, which of these is the best? And we talked about it. And this is the best Quake deck that Keen has, which makes it likely the best, like, not deck that runs Quake. That's probably the next deck we're going to talk about, but the best Quake deck. And understand that those two are different. Yes, this deck is not going to go over the top of things. That's what G is for. That's what Goose is for. But it's going to go wide and put a lot of power and lock up the board. Cool. All right, let's talk. So Jeff can be Silk or Nightcrawler. It's Silk, obviously, if you have it. You need Legion and Annihilus. Legion gives you that extra Storm on 4, Legion on 5 win condition. And Annihilus is obviously important in a deck that's running both Hood and Sentry. Ms. Marvel can be Super Skrull or Adventurous. All right, King Koala, the game's foremost Quake expert. Turn 1, you Hood. Turn 2, you Goose. Preferably a different place than you Hooded. But sometimes it's not a terrible idea to Goose over that Hood, because if they're unlikely to be able to fill that lane because you Goosed, which means your Hood should get through. I also like to just Goose blind right sometimes for Sentry. You can also Storm right to make sure that the Void gets over that lane. So turn 2 is Goose over Jeff over Maximus. I will play Maximus on 2. I prefer not to, but I will play it over nothing. I would Hood over Maximus. Turn 3 is Storm, nice and simple. You don't always Storm. Sometimes you go down to the turn 2 plays. That's fine. Turn 4 is usually Ms. Marvel or Sentry. If you stormed right, play Sentry. If you have 2 things and you're looking like you can go wide, play Ms. Marvel. You can also storm on turn 4. If you do storm on turn 4 and you have enough power up, particularly if you didn't play Hood and have a bunch of power otherwise, or tell that they're just trying to go off, like they're the type of deck that might pass turn 5, for example, then you Legion that storm and just win the goddamn game. If not, you play Annihilus. Um, and if not, you can still play Quake and go wide. Cool. You play Quake. They've played a bunch of stuff in that Storm lane. You've hopefully only put Storm there. You flip everything to another lane that you've taken advantage of, and then you can just compete for that lane. They've dropped something big. That's what Shang-Chi is there for. Then you have Doom or stuff plus Demon, Quake, and go wide. You have like a million options last turn. Read the board. You should be able to win most of the time, unless they're ridiculously tall. You should be able to win by going over the top of them. Shang and Quake are going to be turn. All right, quick variant time. We have Noir Hood. We've got Hips, Goose, Jeff, Legion again, Annihilus, Ms. Marvel. 5 hips, not bad. I decided to throw the Art Adam Shang-Chi in here. We've got our Merge Sentry. Uh, this Doom is in a bundle that's supposedly coming out soon. They have removed data mines, which is a thing I will have more opinions on later. I used my gold storm that they gave us with that music video they released. Best Maximus until new really cool Maximus comes out. I threw in this Quake. This is I don't remember who made this Quake. I'm really sorry, but I like this Quake a lot. I have one I like a little bit more. We'll see it in a few minutes. But this is a pretty deck and a very very strong deck that I urge you to try. It's got a million lines. It might give you a headache, but it will make you better at Snap. All right. Every Wednesday we have We Vote Wednesday. You usually choose one deck, and I feature it on Friday. We've got too many decks this week already, so we're going to choose 2 decks, and we'll cover them both in Sunday's video. Got it? Choose 2 of these characters. I've got a proven winning deck with all 6 of these cards. So if you would like to see a deck with any of these cards, comment. You will get 2 of them in Sunday's video. All you have to do is leave a comment with the 2 you would like to see. The 2 that get the most votes, we reveal the decks. Next up, we have Lamby's The New Normal. This is Lamby's Day 1 Loki deck. Lamby is the foremost Loki best player in the world. And Lamby has played this Loki deck. He put together this Loki deck that he climbed into the top 25. So this deck is sort of all in on Loki, and if it's not all on Loki, it's just saying I'm going to do the stats. That's kind of it, right? Like there's nothing super fancy here. Um, Sometimes you can win a lane just because you have 2 cards. Like you have, let's say, Mirage, Gladiator, that's 10, plus Ms. Marvel, that's 15. You're suddenly up 15 in a lane going into the game. That's an awful lot, right? And then if you can get like a Devil Dino and another decent lane, you win. Otherwise, you win by going Loki, and Loki with Quinjet is just still a monster. We're clearly abandoning Collector and the Bounce at this point, but this is just a good stuff deck. This is fundamentally a Zabu good stuff deck at this point. Iron Lad is the swing card here, according to Lamby. Iron Lad is specifically here because he can hit Loki, and if Iron Lad hits Loki, that's great, right? Iron Lad has a lot of good hits and one very bad hit, but a lot of very good hits. You're happy for Iron Lad to hit Snowguard, Mirage, Zabu. Quake is dangerous, but fine. Coulson is good. Gladiator is your bad hit. Shang is fine. Ms. Marvel is fine. He is great in Devil Dino. Ultimately, you're pretty happy with those hits. And again, Devil Dino is just your big thing for the deck because you usually have a lot of cards in hand thanks to Quinjet, Mirage, and Coulson. Okay. This needs Loki and needs Zabu. There's no exception. Zabu is probably the most important card in the game right now because Zabu goes in the Black Knight decks and the Loki deck. So Iron Lad is the swing card. You can try Maria Hill or Echo, but probably if you're missing Lad, it's just Super Scrub. Same idea from Ms. Marvel. Gladiator is important. You can try Maximus or Polaris if you're missing him. And then Snowguard can just be Maria. Make it Maria Hill and don't overthink. Cool. Turn by turn. Turn 1, I prefer Quinjet to Snowguard. Turn 2 is Zabu. Or if you don't have Zabu, play the ones. If not the ones, play Mirage. Turn 3, Coulson if you have Loki. If not, play Gladiator. And add caveat, Coulson if Loki or Quinjet is out. If not, Gladiator. Turn 4, Loki if you can. Loki always on 4 with this deck. Or Iron Lad to try and hit Loki or Ms. Marvel. Turn 5, C4, add in Dino or their cards. Turn 6, same, except now it's too late to Loki because it's not like you collector buff. Cool. This makes the Loki mirror significantly less obnoxious, the lack of collector. Other than that, this is a very, very powerful deck that's doing powerful things. Enjoy it. It's going to win a lot of games of Snap. I think this is probably a top 3 to 5 deck in Snap. Like, I think the best decks are probably Loki, Black Knight, whatever version. I prefer the Lamby version, and Thanos. So enjoy them. And like they're crazy strong. Big variant talk. We have Steampunk Quinjet. I like Wing Snowguard, even though I have the Spotlight variant. This is my favorite Mirage. It feels very New Mutants. We've got Hip Zabu as one of our only three hips, along with Gladiator and Iron Lad. It's a sad day. This is the Quake I love. This is my favorite Quake in Marvel Snap. I think this Quake is absolutely perfect. We've got Noir for Coulson, my second favorite variant type. My third favorite, we got the Peach Momoko Shang-Chi and Ms. Marvel. I've got Rainbow Bridge Loki, and then Cozy Devil Dino because it's winter and it is cold out here in New York. All right, last thing. I don't know how I accidentally did it, but I apparently opened Hercules, but the game was buggy and it didn't show me I opened Hercules, so I kept opening, and then I got variant Hercules. I mean, okay, I guess that's fine. I'm not short resources creator, so whatever. So I ended up with all three spotlights. I now have three incredible Howard variants for fairly unplayable cards, so whatever. But I got this great werewolf variant, which will now be my go-to werewolf by night variant. I love werewolf by night. I'll play me some more werewolf by night. I've got two Hercules decks for you coming soon that I think are both really good. So stay tuned for that. I've got a Hercules Quake deck, and then someone else sent me a Hercules deck that I gotta like look more closely at. I did the Snap Decisions podcast earlier, so check that out if you're interested. Just type in Snap Decisions, Marvel Snap, and find it. Um, so I didn't have a chance to look at it closely, but it looked real good. So expect some Hercules stuff and Hercules reviews tomorrow. I don't think he's great, but hey, look, I got a cool variant. My shop we always do on Tuesdays the new card review thing, so we don't look at the shop. This was my Tuesday shop. It has that Venomized Hella that I would buy if I were ever going to get that variant collection, but it convinced me not to. I like the Scarlet Witch, but I have other Scarlet Witches I like. Um, I don't like Venomized variants, so again, I didn't buy armor. I may buy there's a hip armor that was spoiled that I desperately want. I want the hip Bishop. I have the hip Mysterio. I have the hip Debris. I have the hip Zola, and I have the hip Galactus, and that's where we are. Then I looked at today's. I really like the Chibi Orca, but I have an Orca and I don't like Galactus, so I don't really play Orca. I have both Future Foundation and Hip for Leech. I have like three magics, so whatever. I have Hip and then the Jacinto for Apocalypse. I think it's Jacinto, excuse me if it's not. I have Jim Lee for Rogue, and then just opened it in Cozy Rogue, so I'm good. Um, I like this Human Torch, but not enough to buy. I have again a hit for Black Panther. I also have the one from the big bundle and the one from his season pass, and I have the hip for Odin. So none of those variants felt necessary to buy. All right, certain tiers of Patreon support come with on-air thanks. So our on-air thanks is for the friends from our Marvel Snap Zone Discord, Models and Pretty Chill. Also hanging out there with us are No Flex, Mandatory but Burnout, Good Dog Gamer, Robert Rivern, and I think that's everyone. Oh, and JD McDonaldino, who also is a Twitch streamer you can check out. Our other friends here are Fothor Newman, who is a wonderful YouTuber, Ink, we said no flex, Matt Conduit 23, Caretix Lee, Mikey Hijinks, DG Winfield, Rob Silverman, Matt H, Abigail Gieslin, Direwolf, Ocularis, Spike Jones, my former student, Louis Antunes, and the homie Min, who streams as Rico in disguise. Show some love to our friends. Thank you all for your support. I appreciate the crap out of you. Closing time. I think that this is one of the best days of decks we've had in ages. I think all three of these decks are stellar. I think Wake is a meta card. The meta is shaken up and it's going to be really hard to play. And so get ready. Get your reps in with these top decks as you can. Thank you so much. Don't forget to help us kill the machines, beat that algorithm, hit that sub button, hit that like, hit that comment. If you're interested in the Patreon, hey, no pressure, but if you're interested, check out patreon.com/snapjudgments. There's, of course, always joining for free. We occasionally release some news and stuff there that way. Appreciate all of you. See you tomorrow for another Snap Take. Peace.